Thank you and good evening. I was pleased to hear Emily talk at length about the statistics that relate to teen pregnancy and the issues that they have. We see this every day. We see the rising number of teen pregnancies in Indianapolis. We are at three high schools we've been at for quite a while: Pike, North Central, and Warren Central. And this fall, in the next few weeks, we're going to enter into Tech High School. And we probably are projected to serve nearly 170 pregnant parenting teams, not only the girls, but the fathers too. But what I was asked to do is tell some real stories. We have been desiring a home like Project Home Indy for years because we've been faced with trying to find homes for our young girls who didn't have a home. So I'm going to tell you about Lisa. Lisa got pregnant in the 9th grade and was on honor roll. She delivered at the end of her freshman year. By 11th grade, she was homeless due to her mother being a drug user. She stayed with an uncle in a different school district, but he would not give her a key to her apartment. She would have to wait after school at a park with her child until he got home from work, so they would stay there about 2 hours every evening. A CPS report had been called in because the night before Thanksgiving one year, she called us at 6 o'clock. You know, in November, it's pretty dark at night. So at 6 o'clock in the evening, she called us and said, "My uncle is gone for the weekend or for the holidays. I can't get in. I have no place to go." So we picked her up, and actually her caseworker took her to her home, fed her, her baby, bathed her baby, washed their clothes. We called everybody that we could think of, or she could think of, to find a place for her to go that night. The night before Thanksgiving, could not find a place. So we had to take her to Youth Emergency Services that night. From there, she went to the Guardian Home. Now, she was 17 and a half years old. 6 months, she would have been 18. We couldn't take her to a homeless shelter because she wasn't 18. At the Guardian Home, her caseworker that works for me is a former CPS employee. So she knows exactly how CPS works. So she told her, while you're at the Guardian Home, stay with your child, be very attentive, because they're interested in taking your baby away. They're not interested in you. And that's exactly what happened. However, she stayed attentive with her child. They did not take her baby, but they called us and said she needs to go back home. Find somewhere for her to go. We're not going to keep her in the system. She's 17 and a half. If we take her on, that means that we have to keep her until she's 21, pay all that transitional stuff that they pay for homeless kids. And they weren't willing to do so. They couldn't find a reason to take her baby, so we had to send her back home to her mother, who was doing drugs. That was very, very frustrating for us, frustrating for her. She ended up dropping out of high school. Then there's Susan. Susan's mom was mentally unstable, and very proudly showed us her medication when we would go to the house and visit. She was a cheerleader at one of the schools and found out she was pregnant in her junior year. Her mother could not handle her being pregnant and said, "Take her away." We searched through the St. Elizabeth's home here in Indianapolis that was open at that time, and they didn't have a place for her. They had one bed that was not a four-over bed, and it was already filled. So our only option was to take her down to New Albany and put her in the St. Elizabeth's home there, because there was no place for her here in Indianapolis. By doing so, we took her out of her school, took her away from her friends, took her away from her family, and put her in an environment, a young teenage pregnant girl all by herself. Of course, with that, her mother didn't even, we had to go to the mother to get her to sign the papers to sign her over to the St. Elizabeth's home, and her mother wouldn't even take her down there. We had to do that. She acted out down there, and they said, "You've got to go home." Her mother did accept her back home. She delivered her baby, stayed at home for a little while, and then had to leave again. Consequently, she dropped out of high school her senior year, and it took her a year later to finally finish, but she's living on her own. Then we have another young girl from Mexico. She moved here at 14 and lived with an older guy who sponsored her, who became the father of her child. This older man kept her as a slave, as she describes it, and was physically abusing her. With calls from her and us working to get her out. By the time she was 18, we were able to get her in the Julian, or before 18, because the Julian said, "I'll work with us a little bit." We were able to put her there. But that's another young person who could have benefited from a home that was getting away from an abusive relationship. And the last story I wanted to tell you about was Sally. I keep changing these names. Sally's 16 years old and pregnant. She was having her second pregnancy. The first pregnancy, or she's pregnant now for the second time. Her first pregnancy, she was forced to have an abortion by her parents. She was in very high academic classes at one of the high schools, and mom and dad were very, very high professionally and just did not want her to have a baby. So they told her her option was to have an abortion or give up the baby for adoption. So she had an abortion. She got pregnant again. They said again, you can't have a child. So they forced her to give her baby up for adoption the second time. We searched, she searched for a place to live because she really, really wanted this baby. But we had, again, no place to live. And so she was forced to do something that she's going to have to live with the rest of her life because of no option of a place to live. Those are the stories that I have to hopefully can let you know that this is real. These are real kids in real situations in which they're homeless. And a place like Project Home Indy is absolutely a thing that we can use to help serve our population